Before we talk about how you got into selling drugs, I want to point out, Israel, that you yourself grew up to be violent. How did that manifest? Like, I know that you didn't like people looking at you.
Well, I had a problem with, I've always been a believer to do unto others before they do unto you. So when I was looked at in an obvious way, or...
What do you mean an obvious way?
Well, it wasn't even such an obvious way. If an individual just looked at me in a strange way, or like curious to know who I am, or what, if there's something about me, and I would take it to an offense, and I'd be like, well, what are you looking at? And it would escalate to something else.
Did you get into serious fights?
Yes, I've gotten into serious fights. I've been stabbed in the back.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I've been shot at, or I've shot at people.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Have you killed anybody?
To my knowledge, no, I haven't.
Wow. You are in a stable marriage now. You've been with the same woman for the last 10 years, but you used to hit women as well. You saw that with your uncles and your aunts.
Yes.
Talk about instances of you hitting women.
Well, men typically don't like to get pushed around. Well, I'm the kind of guy that the way I set my example and the way I say it is, if somebody kind of pokes at you and for quite a bit of time, verbally, it becomes a nuisance to me, and
So are you talking about nagging?
Nagging, just nagging at me, or picking on me, or telling me that I'm not amount to anything, or I'm this or I'm that, and that kind of gets me to a point of, I'm fixing to leave, but yet they're always at the door saying, no, you can't go, and then they'll put their hands on you, and then it leads me to the point to where, at times where I would get a little violence with them.
What specifically did you do?
I think on my last relationship with my first daughter, years and years ago, I kind of flipped her over the couch and kind of kicked her a couple of times.
Wow.
Which led me to prison as well.
As part of when you got busted for drugs, or that was like an earlier time?
That was when I had gotten busted for drugs, after I was pretty much already had done a 5-year stretch in prison, came out on probation. It was a very difficult time for me as I was trying to make my way back into society.
Oh, okay. Have you ever hit your current wife?
I have.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, I know that you've changed your life around. Are you still dealing with the violence issues?
No, not at all. I deal with them by going to church.
Okay.
And that's how I deal with that issue.
So this is, you no longer hit women, men, anyone?
No, not at all.
Okay. How did I don't know, your wife stuck with you? You hit her.
She stuck with me because she loves me, and she knows where I've come from, what type of lifestyle that I've lived, and also the changes that I've made in my life to be able to be the man that I need to be today.
Israel, how did you come to sell drugs?
Well, I was selling drugs at the age of probably 14 and 15 years old. People around me smoked it, and there was a need. People were...
There was the need.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, it's if there was a need for some people to have it, well, then somebody had to produce for that need, and that would be me.
But what gave you the idea? I mean, you have a remodeling business now, so you're an entrepreneur. Like, did you just at the age of 14 have an entrepreneurial streak back then, and you're like, here's an opportunity? Well,
yeah. I had an entrepreneurial streak before I even started selling drugs, as I was cutting yards as a young guy. My father always taught me one thing, and that was money is your best friend. There was a song that he used to hear that I always remember now, and it's called "How Do You Spell Love?" M-O-N-E-Y. He was a hippie guy. He said money was it, and that was what I was shooting for at the time, and I was doing that since I was in the 6th grade.
So you talked about initially when you saw like the drugs on the table that you're like that you were afraid of getting in trouble. So how did you like make that leap to actually selling?
Well, unfortunately, I met his friends. And his friends were a lot older than myself, obviously. They were in their 30s, from the east side. And I became associated with them, and slowly but surely we accumulated a source of a business.